Buenos
Buenos
dias,
dias,
amigos.
amigos. Hi, I'm Shanil.
And I'm Daniel.
And we'll be presenting...
First, as reenactment passes out the overview of the presentation, we'll be talking about the significance of the title. So Shanil, what is the significance of the title Death of a Salesman?
Well, that is a fantastic question, Daniel.
I know.
First, you might think that the story is simply about the death of a salesman. However, there is much more to it than you think. The main character of the story is Willie the salesman. During the play, we see how business affected the world during the mid-1900s. During the play, Willie Loman talks about his father's death and how every salesman in his area came to his funeral to bid him farewell.
So Shanil, the title foreshadows what's going to happen to Willie and that he wants to die exactly like his father?
Exactly, Daniel. He wants to be loved by his community and wants everyone around him to respect him so he can die happy. Now, I wonder what Biff's relationship with Happy and Willie was.
I know this one, Shanil. Biff and Happy have an eccentric relationship. Happy wants Biff to pull himself together and get his life back on track. However, Biff wants to move away from the business lifestyle and wants to distance himself from the family. Biff held his father with such high regard until he found out that he cheated on his wife. He loses total respect for his father. So, if there are main characters, aren't there minor characters as well?
How right you are, Daniel. Bernard is one of the minor characters that looks up to Biff and idolizes him and the family, but he is often looked down upon by Willie. Willie believes that Bernard would not be as successful as Biff because people didn't like him as much as they loved Biff. But even though Bernard wasn't the sharpest person in the high school, he goes on to become more successful than both the Loman brothers.
Aw, yeah.
What is the American dream, Daniel?
I got you, Shanil. The concept of American dream is very materialistic and conveys the idea that an individual can be successful regardless of background and status.
I see.
This thought is mentioned throughout the entire play. Happy believes in the American dream, stating that success is measured on how much knowledge an individual has gained throughout their life, coupled with a nice salary. By analyzing the Loman family, we learn that the majority of the families place their happiness on material goods such as a nice house and a nice car.
I see.
So Shanil, can you tell me a bit about the author Arthur Miller?
Yes, of course, Daniel.
Thank you.
Miller grew up in a very hard environment. He was born during the times of the Great Depression. He had to work multiple jobs in order to support his family financially. He decided to write The Crucibles as an example of many social protests, dramas, and plays in response to McCarthyism. The novel was very popular during his time, and it still is today, actually.
Thank you, Shanil. Lastly, we'll be talking about the point of view. Miller wrote the play in third-person omniscient. The author is attempting to show us the big picture of what is happening throughout the play. Since Miller uses third-person omniscient view, we know that Willie's family speaks casual language to each other. The point of view that Miller uses helps us understand what is happening throughout the story, as well as the diction in each sentence.
Alright, thank you, Daniel. Now we'll take it back to you guys.
Thank you, reenactment. Hey Shanil, I can't understand why the author chose this particular structure for the play.
By particular, are you talking about how the play has flashbacks and implementations of dead characters?
Yeah, I don't really understand those.
Well, Daniel, it's quite simple. The flashbacks of characters that have passed away or events that from the past are evidently present to portray the thought process that Willie is going through. His thoughts seem to be spontaneous depending on certain things that cause him to recall events or people from the past.
I see. Continue.
We are able to, through Willie's eyes, see the past events of his life and see how they have impacted or led to the current events taking place in the play.
Alright, the show. Tell me what Biff's like, man.
Well, Daniel, Biff is a major dynamic character within the story. He tried hard to please his father, even stating that he's going to go to build Oliver's office to try and get a business started. However, from the point of which young Biff finds out about Willie's mistress, he loses all of his admiration for his dad, and Biff no longer wants to follow the ambitions of his father. Now, can you tell us what type of character Biff is?
I got you. Biff is also a wrong character. He is presented throughout the entire play by Arthur Miller. Within the subtext of the play, Biff tries to contain his anger against his dad and sometimes is unsuccessful. But at other times, Biff becomes very conflicted about his dad and tries to get his dad to listen, usually without success. In the end, Biff is exhausted from trying to get his dad to realize that he will never be the son that Willie wants him to be. Through these actions, Biff finally gets through to Willie, as Willie realizes that Biff does really love him.
Well, that explains a lot, Daniel. Thank you.
No problem, Shanil. Did you catch the diction that Miller used in this work?
Well, here's how it is. Biff's language throughout the play is rather neutral, and he sounds somewhat educated and sharp. The parentheses and italics tend to help us show us how Biff is feeling and how he displays his emotions. The present-day Biff's language is particularly strong. When Biff is trying to make a point to either Linda, Happy, or Willie, his language becomes very emotional and demanding, so that they finally listen to him after all these years. I think you can explain the syntax in the work, Daniel.
Well, Shanil, that was a fantastic explanation. Now, as far as the syntax goes, Biff is usually to the point, while contradicting him is Willie, who rambles on about nonsense.
Alright, thank you again, Daniel. That'll be all for today.
Now back to Ashman and Rhea!